Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Kalisa Salsa Kirana, and I want to explain about my subject entitled Truth. It is subject about philosophy of language. For the first Plato's theory, in the Sophists 263, Plato gives a rudimentary theory of truth. Although the account applies only to the very simplest sentences, it is a good place to start a discussion of truth, for it leads directly to the so-called semantic conception of truth, developed by Alfred Tarski in the 1960s centuries, which is at the center of contemporary discussion of the notion of truth. The simplest sentences, says Plato, consist of two parts: a verb which designs an action and a name which denotes an individual, and the sentence is true just in case the individual designed by the name performs the action designed by the verb. Theaetetus flies, for example, is not true, because the boy Theaetetus, who is denoted by the name, doesn't perform the action designed by the verb flies. Theaetetus sits by contrast is true. Plato's account can be extended beyond the very simplest sentences without great effort. Instead of an intransitive verb, a sentence might contain a verb phrase consisting of the copula and an adjective or common noun like is brave or is a mathematician. Such a verb phrase designs a property, and the sentence is true if and only if the individual named by the name has a property. We can use a transitive verb instead, getting a sentence like Socrates loved Theaetetus, which is true just in case the individual denotes by the subject performs the action, denotes by the verb on individual denoted by the direct object. A similar treatment works for relational statements like Socrates is older than Theaetetus. Truth conditions for compound sentences are derived from those for their components. Number 2. Convention T. Semantic, according to Tarski, 1936, studies connections between expression of a language and the object or states of affairs that those expression refers to. Tarski's semantic conception of truth employs the method of modern logic to consolidate the insight we get from Plato and from Fichte in order to obtain an explicit definition of truth. That is, it provides a characterization of the form X is a true sentence of the language live. Talk about convention T also. If we already had a precise understanding of truth in L, we would not require a definition. Lacking such a precise understanding, how are we able to recognize, much less prove as a theorem, that a proposed definition is correct? Tarski's response focused on what he calls T sentences that follow the paradigm snow is white is true in English if snow is white. If L is our object language, the language whose theory of truth is under construction, the T sentences for L are obtained from the following schema by filling in the blanks appropriately. The first blank is filled in with a structural descriptive name of a sentence of the object language. A structural descriptive name of a sentence might be a quotation name, or it might be a Gödel number. Convention T declares a proposed definition of truth to be adequate if it is possible to derive all the T sentences from it. In the derivation, we are permitted to make use of the laws of syntax and of basic mathematics, as well as pure logic. Convention T appeals to deeply held intuitions about truth. Ordinary English speakers who understand the meaning of the word true and who accept the proposed translation of the object language into English regard T sentences. Next, the third Tarski theory of truth. We illustrate Tarski's method with a simple example, examining a language LU whose individual constants are T, which stand for Theaetetus, S, which stand for Socrates, and P, which stand for Plato, whose predicates are B, which stand for is brave, and W, which stand for is wise, and Van Metzge, whose logical operators are, which stand for and which stand for not, and then which stand for some person. The term of language P, S, P, and the variables N0, N1, N2, and etc. The atomic formulas take the forms by BT and WT, where T is a term. Now that we have explicitly defined this notion of denotation with respect to a variable assignment, we are free to utilize the notion in the defining truth. Before doing so, we introduce one further auxiliary notion, satisfaction, which meets the following conditions. First, if X satisfies W, X is a variable assignment and Y is a formula. Second, a variable assignment S satisfies by T if for some person P, T denotes P with respect to S and P is brave. Third, a variable assignment S satisfies WT if for some person P, T denotes P with respect to S and P is wise. Fourth, a variable assignment satisfies a formula of the form if it satisfies both W and C. No, I mean Y and C. A variable assignment satisfies a formula of the form Y if it doesn't satisfy Y. A variable assignment S satisfies a formula of the form if there is a variable assignment that agrees with S except possible in the value it assigns to Ni and that satisfies Y. Next, the liar paradox. One source of difficulty is that the natural language are vastly more complicated than language purposefully designed for explicit clarity. It is hardly surprising that the technique that success for simple language will not work without modification for more complex language. One modification that has proven especially useful is, rather than assigning to each predicate an extension consisting of all the individuals that actually satisfy the predicate, to assign each predicate an intension, a function that associates each possible word that the set of individuals that satisfy the predicate in that word. The liar sentence is not true in English. The T sentence for the liar sentence is this: The layer sentence is not true in English. Is true in English if the layer sentence is not true in English since, by the way, we define the layer sentence. The layer sentence is not true in English. The layer sentence we can substitute to obtain an outright contradiction. The layer sentence is true in English if the layer sentence is not true in English. Consequently, the T sentences for English are inconsistent with manifest fact, in particular the fact not by. And for the last, this quotation and correspondence. This quotational truth is useful not only for communicative needs, as a way of endorsing other people's judgment and maze, but also for deliberative purpose. To illustrate, consider piano arithmetic, a powerful axiomatic system for number theory consisting of a small collection of familiar facts from elementary school and infinitely many induction axioms obtained by substituting arithmetical formula into the induction axiom schema. You can see the uh, sentence. Next, the disquotationalist sees things differently. For her, the meaning of the word true or true in English really, but we are suppressing the in English guarantees of the truth of this. Harry is bald is true if Harry is bald. The definition of falsity as truth of the negation gives us this: Harry is bald is false if Harry is not bald. These two biconditionals imply, not only in classical logic but in the very weak logic of truth value gaps we discuss when we talk about Kripke. Harry is bald is either true or false. The two conceptions of truth have different attitudes toward the layer paradox. For the disquotationalist, the constraint that the notion of truth can only be applied to a restricted fragment of English means that we cannot form infinitary conjunctions and disconjunctions quite as freely as we would have hoped. An inconvenience, no doubt, but hardly a cause for bewilderment. This is for example, you can see in the red word. And okay, I think that's all about my explanation. I'm sorry for my mistake and see you.